Good evening, everyone. Just want to start off with a disclaimer that this presentation is for informational purposes only and is not legal advice, as every claim is different. Viewing this presentation does not form an agent-client relationship with Carmella George of Jacksonville Veterans Disability Services. If you have specific questions regarding your claim, consult with a veterans VSO agent or attorney and form a relationship with them. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. I had a wonderful trip. Thanks for asking. Had a wonderful trip. So I'm taking questions tonight. Let me know what's on your mind, what I can answer for you. I do want to start off with the statement that if you have questions that are not of a sensitive nature, please pose them to the group. And you don't have to inbox me directly. There are a number of qualified people in the group, really smart people that are probably more qualified than I and could do these videos just the same as I. So please pose your question to the whole group so you can get a wide range of, well, hopefully you get the right answer, but you get a wide range of perspectives and you can decide yourself on what you need to do. You don't have to inbox me unless your questions are of a sensitive nature. So let's get started. Just getting back off vacation. I had a wonderful trip. I thought I would hop on and take some questions about the middle of the month and don't want to leave you guys hanging. First question. I have a 30% disability service connected to PTSD for tension headaches. How can I go about getting it increased to 50%? If you believe your disability has worsened, then you just go put in the increase. Because you're already service connected, there's not much documentation that is necessary. Documentation is helpful, but not necessary because you're already service connected. So what you need to prove to the examiner on the day of exam is that your headaches are very frequent. They cause severe economic disability and frequent severe economic disability, and that they're prostrated. You have to go lay down or take a break or take a rest when they happen. So you have to cease activity pretty much. And so those are the things that you need to prove to the examiner. Well, now what would be helpful in terms of documentation would be a migraine log showing how often you had those disabilities and what you had to do, how often you had those headaches and what you have to do when you have those headaches. That would be helpful to your claim because it allows the doctor to read that probably before your exam when they review your records. So I would suggest downloading the migraine app on your phone, migraine log app, and start keeping track of how frequent your headaches are, how bad they are, what causes them, and what do they cause you to do as a result of them. Hello, hi guys. If I was diagnosed with GERD in the military, should I file for it as a primary or secondary to PTSD? Do I need a Nexus? If you were diagnosed in the military, you likely should file for it as a primary condition directly connected to service. If it gets denied, you can either appeal it or try it secondary to PTSD. But if you were diagnosed in service with GERD, it certainly is a service connected condition, and you should likely file for it primary. The next question is, do I need a Nexus? And the answer is that every claim needs a Nexus. It's just a matter of, are you going to get it privately? Or are you going to allow the examiner that the VA sends you to determine the Nexus? So you don't have to get one privately. In your case, you have a diagnosis in the military, you probably have a current condition, and how long have you been out of the military would be a good question. But they're going to send you to a CAP exam if you had a diagnosis in the military, and that examiner can write you a Nexus on the day of exam. So hopefully that answers that question. I'm currently going through an MEB process, through an MEB, and have a proposed rating for 100%. I only received 30 for PTSD and is non-combat related. I have a CAB. How do I get it changed to combat related? My retirement date is 29 October. That's a very good question, and actually an answer that I do not know. I don't know everything. But I would seek some additional guidance on that. I'm not familiar with the ins and outs of the MEB process, so I really can't tell you, but does your 30% for PTSD translate to VA disability? And has it been ruled? I mean, I wonder why they determined it was non-combat related. There had to be some reasoning. Because if you were in combat and you got PTSD, there should be some relation there. So this is a very interesting question, and I honestly don't know the answer. I would suggest that you seek some additional guidance on it. I might do some research after this and try to get back to you, but I don't know the answer off the top of my head. Is it law that I cannot change my DAV rep while I have an appeal pending? I'm just so very disappointed in his efforts and availability. That's not law. In the old appeal system, you once an appeal got within 90 days of being decided by the board, they wouldn't let you change representatives or send new evidence. But that's not the current appeal system. So it really depends on what system your appeal is in, how long it's been in, and that type of thing. But generally, it's definitely not law. It's more of a procedure that the board goes by sometimes. But in my opinion, you just sign with somebody else. You change your rep yourself, and you could probably do it. The board will probably allow it. So if you're disappointed with your current rep's efforts and you feel like you need new representation, go get new representation. Another rep can likely help you through the rest of the process. I'm recently 100% scheduler. How do I request total and permanent? That's a good question. To request total and permanent, you have to write the VA and ask to be permanent and total. The VA considers your request for permanent and total as a request for a claim for increase. So what you need to do is be very specific in your request, telling them which disabilities need to be determined, need to be re-examined for permanent and total. Disabilities in VA world are either static or not static. Static means it doesn't have any, whoever rated it didn't think there was any chance of improvement in the condition, or not a good chance of improvement, basically. And so they rated it static, like it won't change. Then there are disabilities that are not rated static, that are scheduled for future exams. And you need to get your rating code sheet, figure out what condition is not static, and just ask for total and permanent on those conditions, and only those conditions will be re-examined. Now, there is some risk to that request. There is the risk that the other disabilities could be reduced. So you have to make the decision very mindfully of the rating schedule, of your current state, and generally what it takes to get a higher a higher rating for your disability. Do you meet that criteria? Something in your list of disabilities is not static, and you need to figure out what it is and request specifically that be turned to permanent and total. Carry some risk though. Could you please cover the issue of VA development to deny? Yes, when the VA develops to deny, it's when they get a needless medical opinion, or they undertake some development that is probably not necessary to the claim, but is just trying to prove the claimant wrong. The court has ruled that the development to deny is basic. I don't want to say illegal, but it's not correct procedure. It's not supposed to be done. That's why the Court of Veterans Appeals has ruled on it. And the VA is not supposed to undertake development to deny. That could be a basis for an appeal, but sometimes they still do it anyway. The VA process is supposed to be a non-adversarial process where the VA is supposed to help you prove your claim. There are times when they don't do that, and individual employees don't understand their role in the process, and they become kind of combative if they don't necessarily believe something, or maybe they haven't connected the dots properly. But the law in VA world is the veteran is supposed to be given the benefit of the doubt at every decision point. The veteran is supposed to be given the benefit of the doubt at every decision point. And so if that's not happening, that could be a great basis for appeal. If you submitted a Nexus, and they still deny, or they send you off to another CMP, or let me think. I had some of these cases happen where, let's say, just the other day, tinnitus and headaches, where are tinnitus and depression. The examiner clearly said in the opinion that the veteran's depression is related to his tinnitus, and the examiner put it at a 70% level. Then the rater that it went back to sent the examiner a note and said, "Are you sure?" Basically, that's what they were asking. Are you sure that his depression is related to his tinnitus? Tinnitus is the only thing he's rated for. There was absolutely no need to ask that question again. You're trying to get the examiner to say no. And so that's when I step in, or another representative steps in and say, "Hey, this is foul play. Don't step over that line." There's no need to ask it. The examiner has already stated very clearly that it's service connected, and there's no need to go backwards to try to deny the veteran's claim. Yeah, that's an excellent question. There's some more. There's lots of good articles out there on this. Well, not lots, but there's a few if you want to look it up. And there's a court case on this topic if you want to look that up. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Let me see if I can find that case real quick. I think it's Payne versus McDonald that talks about development to deny, and that's Payne versus McDonald. 1 second. I'm looking up one other case that it could be. The court found Okay, I'm not aware of that other case right now, but I'll try to look for it and get back to that question. Next question. Wait, say that again about the Nexus letter. I'm not sure what I said, so you have to ask a specific question. Been out of the military for over 25 years. Just was diagnosed with PTSD by the VA. I did my CMP exam and have buddy statement and letter from my VA counselor. Do you think I have a chance to get a rating since it's been so long? You have a chance. Yes, you have a chance to get a rating, especially if something has triggered your PTSD from your past. I see cases all the time, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years out, where the veteran probably has had PTSD for a long time, but is just seeking treatment or something like that and just putting in the claim. But if you have the stressor in the military and you have a current condition, then the VA should develop the claim because you have triggered the VA's duty to assist. They should send you to an exam. So it's definitely possible, and the buddy statement and the letter from your VA counselor just doubly help your case. So just because you've been out 25 years does not disqualify you. You have a great chance of getting rated for PTSD. What is a Nexus? What is a CMP exam? And I'm about to retire but don't have a clue. A Nexus letter is simply a statement from a medical professional, preferably a MD doctor, or in case of a mental disability, a psychiatrist or a psychologist, that says, that connects your disability to service. Ideally, if you're getting that Nexus privately, you want that Nexus to be a positive opinion, meaning that it says it's more likely than not connected to service, or connected to a service-connected condition. Generally, the VA will send you to a CMP exam, compensation and pension exam. After you've claimed a disability, they're going to send you to an exam to evaluate that disability. That's called a CMP exam. At that CMP exam, the examiner can provide a Nexus for your disability themselves. And so if you're about to retire and you're putting in a claim, you don't really need a private Nexus opinion. If you have a history of it in service, you have a current disability, the examiner is likely to say yes because you're claiming it right when you get out instead of waiting 10 or 25 years. So a Nexus letter is a medical opinion basically that says it's connected to service. A CMP exam is an exam they send you to evaluate your disability once you put in the claim. Hi, Carmella. Hi. I filed a supplemental based on your advice because I kept getting denied for my headaches being service-connected. The examiner documented that my headaches are 50% more likely due to service. My VSO said he saw it, but do they go back and look at the previous denials and back pay, or do they just accept this as the final decision on my headaches? Just want to understand what happens when the evidence was always there. Okay, under the new law as of February 2019, if you have continuously pursued the condition which means no 365 days have lapsed between any two claims. For instance, you put in a claim December 1st, 2017, and you didn't file a claim again until December 2nd, 2018, then your claim has lapsed. There's no connection there. But if you file a claim on December 1st, 2017, and you file a claim on November 30th, 2018 and November 30th, 2019, and you just got connected for headaches, your back pay is going to go all the way back. I hope that makes sense. If there's been continuous pursuit of the claim, whether it was primary or secondary, you're going to get back paid to the original date that the claim didn't lapse. There was no 365 days between any two claims, which can sometimes lead to substantial back pay. So, but if your claims haven't had continuous pursuit, they're only going to go back to the date that you put in the most recent claim. I see this all the time. This is why it's important when you get denied, for everybody else, it's important when you get denied to keep fighting, to keep trying, to don't give up on the VA. Don't go find somebody who can help you. Because a good person will tell you if you have a valid claim or not, if you have the evidence, if you have a chance. I just had a veteran who has been denied since he got out in 2018 for anxiety, and he was in service. He was fainting, falling out, chest pain. They just never diagnosed it. They never knew what was going on, and so every time he put in the claim for anxiety, they said he had no anxiety, and were looking for more at a physical condition like chest pain than a mental condition. Well, we just got that corrected, and he was awarded last week with his anxiety because we specifically asked the VA to look at it as a mental health condition, because he had all kinds of cardiac workups and they found nothing. So it's just a matter of how long you've continuously pursued the condition, which determines back pay. Recently diagnosed with glaucoma, left eye, had surgery for aneurysm, left ophthalmic artery next to optic nerve in 1996. Have other residuals from that surgery. Would I need more than the op report to get it rated? That's a good question. The op report should be enough evidence to get you an exam. It might not be enough to get it rated itself. You might need a Nexus letter for that, but it should be enough to get you an exam for it, because you had a condition of service, and you have a current condition, and you need a Nexus, and that should trigger the VA's duty to assist. But the VA is going to need a medical opinion to determine if it's related to service, so they're going to ask one of their examiners to examine it. Also, when I filled out my claim, I left 5 or 6 things off my claim. Even though I'm proposed at 100%, should I add them after service? Thank you for answering my other question. The PTSD is compensated in my 100%. I was told I couldn't have it changed until I retire and become a member of the VA. So that means your non-combat PTSD can be changed to combat PTSD, and then you could probably put in for combat-related special compensation. But once you get to 100%, you have to make a decision, because when you reopen your claim, any claim with the VA can, not that they will or do, but they can go back and look at all your claims and schedule you for more exams. So if you feel like the 5 or 6 things one of those things will add up to 60%, where you will get special monthly compensation, then you might want to pursue them. If you feel like those 5 or 6 things, one of them is a heart condition, one of them is something that could possibly lead to death, and you would want that connected, because if you died from a service-connected condition, your spouse could get benefits and things like that. You might want to try to get that connected. There's all sorts of reasons you can pursue things after 100%. You just have to decide, is it worth the risk? Is there some benefit to be gained after 100%? Can I get can I qualify for special monthly compensation? Or am I trying to qualify, make sure that I'm leaving death benefits for my spouse? Not just to add other things to my claim. You know what I mean? My thing is, once you get ahead with the VA, leave the VA alone unless there's some benefit to it. And so you probably want to get a good service officer to look at your case and tell you, are there more benefits that you qualify for if you were to claim other things. If you're already at 100%, or you're 100% for one disability, and you get another 60% disability, then you can get special monthly compensation. If you have loss of use of something, like loss of use of your feet, and that's other 5 or 6 things, you certainly want to get that service connected. If you have loss of use of a creative organ, like erectile dysfunction or something like that, and that's in your other 5 or 6 things, you want to get that connected because it's more compensation. So make sure there's some benefit to filing more claims, and you're not just filing more claims to get them on the list. That's all well and good, but it could open you up to the risk of more exams. Good evening. I claimed flat feet with pain in 2008. Claim was denied. Recently, I have seen the VA and a private podiatrist and gained a lot of supporting medical evidence. I now have 2 buddy statements and have an appointment with the doctor to get a Nexus letter. Is this a supplemental claim or a new claim? It's a supplemental claim. Anything that has been previously denied would be a supplemental claim. If it's been previously denied, you have to file it as a supplemental claim. I had a CMP exam I have been seeing a VA psychiatrist, but I haven't filed for PTSD. I have all the symptoms. Should I go ahead and file with PTSD while I'm seeing a psychiatrist? The answer is, it depends on what the psychiatrist has diagnosed you with. You should, if you've never had a diagnosis of PTSD in the military or since the military, you may want to make sure you have that diagnosis before you file for it, because the thing is, if they diagnose you with depression because of the service, with anxiety because of the service, or something different than PTSD, then you want to claim depression or anxiety. You need to look at your medical records, see what you've been diagnosed with mentally, and pursue that. If you've been diagnosed with PTSD, that's great. Go for it. But you just want to make sure you're claiming what you have a diagnosis for. Okay. Can I request an increase for having surgery for a service-connected condition where surgery is the only way to help the condition be less painful? It depends on what the condition is, what the rating schedule says about that condition, if there's any room for increase in that condition, if there's any room for increase in that condition and the current severity of that condition. For instance, if you had your knee evaluated when you got out and you only got 10%, and since then you've had knee replacement surgery, you probably qualify for a 30% rating and should put in for an increase. But if you had, what part of the body? Let's see. If you your feet. If you had surgery on your feet, but you're already rated 50% for your feet, there's likely no higher rating you can get unless you have loss of use of the feet. So there's no point in putting in an increase claim. You need to look at the rating schedule and determine if there's any room for increase in your condition. And then if the severity of your condition has worsened as a result of that surgery, then you should put in for a claim for increase. If it hasn't, or it's at the same level, or there's no chance of increase, you probably don't want to reopen the claim. My rating was 60%. The VA increased me to 100%, but took the static classification away and scheduled me for a follow-up in 2 years. Then whatever condition they took the static classification away from, if you're trying to get P&T, is the condition that you need to ask for P&T for specifically. Sometimes when a mental health rating is 100% by itself, the VA does not like to grant P&T for that alone because they feel like it can be improved. So the only way to get that to become static again is to wait for that follow-up in 2 years, or to go ahead and ask them for another exam for it. That's totally up to you. Is a field exam the same as a CMP? Where overseas in the M21 Part 3, Subpart 4, Chapter 3, Section B says the claim should be routed by Pittsburgh, Canada VA. A contractor is implying this is not a directive. Thoughts, please. I believe in the context that you're speaking of, that you're located overseas and you put in a claim, that a field exam is the same thing as a CMP exam. I'm not exactly sure what that specific part of the M21-1 says, but the contractor shouldn't be implying anything. They should be following the order they've gotten from the VA. I'm not quite sure what a contractor would be saying about an order they got from the VA to you. That sounds a little strange. But generally, if you filed for a claim or a claim for increase or something like that, and you're overseas and the VA has contracted a doctor to do it, they should just perform that exam, whatever the VA has ordered them to do. With sleep apnea, can you get a rating or lose your rating with Inspire sleep therapy? This is an internal sleep device. This takes away the sleep CPAP. If it's a breathing apparatus device, then I believe that qualifies you for the 50% rating. If it's not a breathing apparatus or device, you may only qualify for the 30% rating, but I'm not necessarily sure what the particular therapy you're referring to is. That's an interesting question. But if it assists you with breathing, you should still qualify for the 50% rate. How long does it take to get approval for temporary disability to do the surgery? It's taking as long as regular claims these days. I have a couple claims in now for this, and it's been 5 or 6 months. COVID has slowed things down, and they're just not looking at them very quickly. So I would give it about 6 months. Do you know of a good log app or some way to log sinus infections as it relates to sinusitis increase? Also, what information needs to be logged for increase from 10% to 30%? Let's see. I would find a good pain log app, and most of those have at least the ones in the Apple Store. You can define the section of your body that's having problems, and what's happening during those times. And so that's pretty much what you need. I would put it on a pain scale, just like pain, 1 to 10. This is the severity of my sinusitis at today. 1 through 10, this was tomorrow, the next day, and then log how many episodes you have and that type of thing. What it causes, does it cause headaches? Does it cause other things? Just as much information as possible about your condition. What is your schedule on here as far as holding these live sessions? I try to do one a month, usually around mid-month. And I don't set a specific date for them, so I'm not overloaded with questions when I come on. I try to be a little spontaneous, so I can take as many questions as possible. But the group is a wonderful place for questions generally. There's some very, very smart people that know claims very well in the group. And so you should feel free to be able to ask a question at any time, not just when I'm on. Can I connect my obstructive sleep apnea secondary to my service-connected migraines? That's an interesting question. I don't know that I've personally seen it connected, but you should check the BVA Board of Veterans Appeals database, opinions database, and see if anybody else has gotten it connected, and see if it's a valid connection. But if your migraines keep you up at night and that type of thing, it could certainly be connected. You might have to connect the dots for the VA or get a private Nexus letter to get it connected, but it might be a valid connection. I retire September 1st. I filed a claim through the benefits delivery before discharge and still have no CMP exam. The VA contacted me through Tragedy transition process to schedule appointments. My question is, will these appointments help my claim or hurt? Contacted me through Tragedy. My question is, will these appointments help my claim or hurt, or be used as support of my claim? I also have a lot of week closer requests for notice for request 11. What does that mean? Will I ever get a CMP exam? My completion date is now April 2020. It sounds like, I'm not exactly sure what Tragedy's transition process is, but if the VA contacted you to schedule appointments, it sounds like the appointments are the CMP exam appointments and should help your claim and be used as support of your claim. On your second question, we closed the request for notice of 11. When you are just getting out of service, there's a lot of things that the VA requests from the service department in terms of your records, your DD-214, your personnel records, and that's what all those requests are. They're just requesting things from different places. They requested exams from you from somewhere, or they needed more federal records. They're just requests for different things that the VA needs. They don't necessarily tell the veteran exactly what those requests are, besides putting those messages on your va.gov or e-benefits that say, we made a request for our request number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is closed. They don't tell you exactly what it is, but it's just they're requesting things for your record so they can make a decision. And if they've already gotten it, like they've already gotten your DD-214, they close that request out. Is it possible to claim obesity as secondary condition to the mental health and back condition? I plan on filing an increase for my back as my spasm is getting worse where they hit me so hard that I cannot walk upright for several days from my back locking up. I did do a recent MRI. My back does show changes than my previous one. It sounds like what you need to file for is an increase in your back condition. But no, you cannot claim obesity. Obesity is not a disability for VA claim purposes. The VA has made that very clear. They do not rate obesity. Obesity can be an intermediate step to a claim. For instance, if you have a back condition, your back condition causes you to gain weight. Your weight gain causes diabetes. Then your back can be connected to your diabetes, but the obesity itself can't be connected. You guys are so sweet. I appreciate you all. If I had trauma from mental abuse in the service and just been told I'm exhibiting PTSD, but they ignored my symptoms for years, can I put in a claim? And can I go back to the time I ETS? The answer is yes, you could put in a claim. And no, it probably won't go back to the time you ETS. It will go back to the date of claim. But you should put in an intent to file or a claim ASAP. The sooner the better. You need to get something logged in the system that says you're going to file a claim, or go ahead and file a claim. But it probably won't go back to the original date in very limited circumstances. Sometimes that happens when new records are discovered that weren't there at the original time of claim. But if you have never filed a claim for it before, then that wouldn't be the case for you. And it just won't go back to the time you ETS. Good evening. How do we go about receiving permanent and total? I was granted 100% chronic fatigue syndrome and 70% PTSD, along with many other service-connected disabilities. You were given 100% just for chronic fatigue syndrome. That's a tough one, because if you ask them to reevaluate for P&T, they're going to reevaluate that chronic fatigue syndrome. And it opens up the potential for reduction. So you want to weigh that risk with asking for what I said before. Putting in a request for permanent and total is a request for increase. Whatever is not static in your conditions, which is probably the chronic fatigue syndrome, is the one you want to ask to be reevaluated. But you have to weigh the risk. Is it worth it? If the answer is yes for you, then go for it. But if you don't want to walk the plank, you might not want to go for it. When having an intent to file or any other claim, is it okay to submit the claim on or by its due date, then continue to submit evidence? Yes, it is. But my best advice is to submit all the evidence up front. That way you ensure that it gets to the examiner. Sometimes when you file something, the VA goes ahead within 3 or 4 days, they go ahead and request the exam from the examiner and send your file to the examiner for the exam. And anything that's you send in after that, it doesn't get seen by the examiner. So a lot of times you want to make sure that you're putting all your evidence in up front. If you have an intent to file and you still have days left and you're still gathering evidence, then you may want to wait on putting your claim in. 100% P&T, 72 years old. I am protected from being reduced in the future. Yes, you are. Especially if you've had your rate over 20 years. After the age of 55, they should not re-examine, but even if you had your rating for 10 or 20 years, they shouldn't touch it either. The likelihood is that unless you open a claim back up, they're not going to touch that 100% P&T. I have an appointment that says General Med for tomorrow morning. I called the day to ask exactly what does this mean, and no one had any answers for me. I just want to know what to expect tomorrow. So that means that the doctor is going to give the doctor a general medical DBQ, disability benefits questionnaire, and ask them what parts of your body are issues. It asks about musculoskeletal, your heart and stuff like that, any skin diseases. I mean, just it goes through the list of all possible parts of the body systems, and asks, do you have disabilities with that area? And then whatever disabilities you have in those areas, the doctor has to fill out an exam packet for that, a DBQ form for that condition. So you just want to make sure that you're very specific with the examiner on what exactly is going on with you. They will probably be led by the things you put in the claim for, but if there's anything else, please do let the examiner know, because they have the ability to add it on that day. Even psychiatric disabilities, there's a place on the general medical examination DBQ for that. Let the examiner know exactly what's going on with you, but they will generally be led by the things you put in the claim for. So whatever you put in a claim for, they're going to examine all those things and anything else that comes up on the day of exam. If you've seen by a specialty doctor before retiring the military and they have a diagnosis, why would you need a CEP exam? Because the military, DOD, and the VA are two separate government departments. So whatever you had done in the military, those just become medical records. The VA has to do its own exams to determine your percentage of disability. I hope that makes sense. You had a diagnosis in service. The VA does not consider that conclusive that your condition is related to service. I know that doesn't sound right, but it's just the way it is. It just doesn't make sense. It's just the way it is. Sorry, I didn't post in a question form. My rating was 60%, and they were all static. The VA this is a very good question. The VA increased me to 100%, but took away the static classification away and scheduled me for a follow-up in 2 years. Should I wait the 2 years to ask for TMP, or do I rock the boat and ask for TMP now? This is solely your decision. I can't give you an answer one way or the other, because you have to determine the severity, look at the rating schedule, determine the severity of your condition. If you want to go through another exam now and have it re-examined and you believe that it should be static now, then you can go ahead and ask for it. If you're pretty confident that it's not going to be lowered, that it's the same severity, and it's not going to improve, then you should go ahead and ask for it. But if you think that it could improve in any way or a little bit or something like that, or you might not get examined at the same level again, then you might not want to rock the boat. It's totally up to you. That's the answer I can't give you. You have to determine that risk yourself. Do you know what general med appointment means? It's a general medical appointment where they're looking at all body systems and disabilities. Teleconference from a private provider is not allowed for mental health, but a video conference from a private provider can be considered, assuming they make the statement about being able to see the vet with mannerisms, etc. Is this correct? Or even video is not considered by a private provider? The answer is, the way the M21 reads is that should be correct. What has become common at the agency level in VA world is that any telehealth private provider medical records are no good. And so, but at the Board of Veterans Appeals, they still consider telehealth records. So you need to, when you're getting a telehealth examination, you need to consider whether you're willing to take your case all the way to the board. Because if the agency level finds out it was telehealth, or the doctor writes in the report it was telehealth, then it's likely going to be denied at the agency level, or they're going to go get their own exam. It doesn't mean you'll be denied. It just means they're probably going to give you another exam, and that the other exam will determine whether you're service connected or not. I hope that makes sense. I don't discount telehealth evidence. I still use it, but I am prepared to take my clients to the Board of Veterans Appeals when I get it. I have a few providers that, they don't write that it's telehealth in the record. They don't have to. Nowhere does it say that if it's a telehealth appointment, it has to be written in the record. So, the VA won't know one way or the other is, the truth, honestly. I just recently won an appeal using a Nexus letter from my private provider. The Nexus letter contained enough information to justify a case for a secondary claim. Can I refuse that same Nexus letter, reuse that same Nexus letter? I get another one specifically for that secondary claim? This is a very good question. This is a very good question. The answer is, I believe the answer is yes, you can reuse that Nexus letter, but I would send in a supporting statement that says, this Nexus letter also supports this condition and has not been considered for this condition before, and so it's new evidence for this condition. I would connect the dots for the VA so they don't automatically say, oh, we've considered this and this is not new evidence, and reject it. I would specifically write out a statement that says this is new evidence for this specific condition, and they should reconsider that letter. I'm service connected for left-right radiculopathy. My MRI show I have S-word 8024 under central nervous system. Can I claim that as secondary? One second. That's a cyst on the spinal cord. It looks like to me from, a quick Google search. And so you might want to claim that the cyst on your spinal cord secondary to your back, and not the radiculopathy itself. I think it's a secondary to your back kind of claim. That's just my opinion, though. I could be wrong. Can I apply for 100% TMP? Yes, you can. How long does it take for you to get a decision on a fully developed claim once you make a decision on claim now? So really that button on va.gov and eBenefits makes no difference in the time frame for your claim. COVID has really screwed with the time frames, and so things are pretty much taking 5 to 6 months now for a claim, and that's what I would expect even for a fully developed claim, because the VA might still send you for an exam. But I should preference that with I've turned in fully development claims since COVID has started, and it's been decided in 5 days. It really just depends on who reviews your claim when it gets to the VA, and if they have enough sense to realize that you already have all the evidence needed to make a decision. Is it possible for the VA to start claims for you on things you did not apply for? The answer is yes. If the doctor finds something on the day of exam or something like that, they can certainly develop a claim that they find. It doesn't happen often, but it happens sometimes. What happens is the VA cannot get hold of previous employees for an unemployability claim. They will keep trying and trying, like maybe 3 times, and then they'll give up. And so what you want to do is you want to get the form and take it to your previous employer and have them fill it out and send it to the VA yourself. You definitely want to get involved there. If your previous employer refuses to fill out the form, write the VA a statement that says, my previous employer will not fill out the form. Most all of conditions are in VA hospital records. Pain in the stomach, ulcers, ended up having stomach, colon cancer, prostate cancer with cyst on liver, claim refiled, bedridden. What chance do I have as I await a decision? 3 times since 1967, chronically ill. What do you feel? Okay, so if I'm understanding your question right, you're saying that the conditions are in your VA hospital records, but not your military records. And if it's not in your military records, you're going to have a difficult time getting service connected. That's just my take from just what you said. And that might be why you've been denied 3 times. It needs to have been in your military records too, or some kind of connection, some type of symptoms or something. I was denied for lower back pain because they said it was not service connected. But I went to TRICARE.com and noticed that documentation said I have lumbago with chronicity as chronic. Never heard the terminology lumbago. Would that be considered new evidence that may overlooked? And would I be able to submit a supplemental with that evidence? There's another reason besides them saying it's not service connected that you were denied for, and I would need that reason to answer this question. It's either that there was no condition in service, there's no chronicity, or there's no current condition. And so I need to know which of those reasons the VA said it wasn't service connected. They tell you exactly why it's not service connected in the letter, and that's what I need to know. Because it sounds like you have a diagnosis for a back condition. Are the TRICARE records, are these VA records? Are they military records? Or I need to know a little more about what's going on there. I had symptoms of diabetes while in service, but was never diagnosed, although I had those certain symptoms. Then years later, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes with the same symptoms I had while in service. Then 9 years after being diagnosed with type 2 by VA, I found out I was actually type 1. I filed a claim for diabetes, but was denied because the CMP examiner stated no diagnosis in service. Now, how can I get this approved as SC or by the misdiagnosis from the VA? A private Nexus letter saying that those symptoms that you had in service were the beginnings of being diabetic. You're going to need private evidence, most likely. I'm rated 60% for chronic fatigue syndrome and 100% PNT. Is there SMC for chronic fatigue syndrome? There can be if you have one condition that's rateable at 100% itself, and then another condition that's at the 60% level, you would qualify for SMC. Housebound. Is there a way I can get another copy of my medical records? There's a couple ways. You're going to request them. If you're talking about your military records, you can request them from the National Archives. You can get a representative, and they should be able to get them for you. Or So that's about it. Requesting from the National Archives, get a representative, they can get them for you. Or you can look on TRICARE.com online or something like that and see if they're located there. Where do I need to start? I will be submitting my retirement packet next month with a good representative. Get a good representative who knows their stuff. Ask around for who other people have used, and who they've had success with, and start there. Somebody who can look at scrub your medical records and find every single thing you can claim and claim it. Follow up. I'm connected with 30% depression and anxiety. As I stated, I'm seeing a psychiatrist thinking about filing for PTSD. Should I go ahead and file for PTSD? No, you should not. If you are already connected for 30% depression and anxiety, you are already connected for a mental health condition, and you can only be rated for one mental health condition. That if you put in for PTSD and they find you have PTSD, they're just going to combine it like they have depression and anxiety. It's going to say depression, anxiety, and PTSD. And it's still going to be 30%, more than likely. All you need to do, you don't need to apply for PTSD or claim PTSD. All you need to do is put in for an increase in depression and anxiety. There's really no point in claiming PTSD by itself. You just need to put in for an increase. I hope that makes sense. How can I connect diabetes and hypertension? I think that this is a pretty common connection, if I'm recalling correctly. I'm not a medical professional, but I've seen it before. And I would just find some medical articles and submit it with my claim. PubMed.gov is a great site to find medical articles. And there's some other reputable sites out there. But, connect the dots for the rater. As a secondary claim, I mean, it should be pretty simple. Can hyperhidrosis be secondary to anxiety? Stressful environment situations trigger my overacting sweating. Also, can I find out what conditions are static? How can I find out what conditions are static? My condition letters doesn't mention static or future evaluations. Yes, your hyperhidrosis can be secondary to anxiety. And you find out what conditions are static or scheduled for future evaluations by getting your rating code sheet. Every decision letter has a rating code sheet to go with it. They just don't send the rating code sheet to the veteran. So you either have to specifically request it from the VA, the rating code sheet, or get it from your representative. The faster way is probably to get it from your representative if they have electronic access to the VA system. My sister was diagnosed with hypothyroidism and the military removed her thyroid. She now suffers from dementia. Have you heard of anyone getting more than a 0 rating for this? Yes, but I believe that they have recently changed the scale for thyroid issues. And so it used to be that it was easier to get a higher rating if I'm thinking of the right conditions. But I've seen more than a 0% rating for this. It just depends on the severity of the condition. Give me 1 second here. Yes, she can get a rating higher than 0% for hypothyroidism. If you have PTSD, Can you claim major depressive disorder as well, or is it all the same? Basically, all the same. If you're already rated for PTSD, there's no point in applying and claiming MDD secondary to PTSD. It's all basically they consider depression. I'm not a medical professional. This is what I've seen frequently, that they consider depression a part of PTSD. If you're not yet rated for PTSD, you can claim both PTSD and major depressive disorder and let the examiner decide which one is service connected. Are there any pointers for filing for TDIU in the meantime? Thanks. There's lots of pointers, and there's a group specifically for unemployability on Facebook called Individual Unemployability. I would encourage you to join that group and ask questions because they have much more knowledge of unemployability than I. But generally, you're going to make sure your employer fills out the forms necessary and generally be able to prove that you can't work because of your conditions. Have heart issues, congestive heart failure, diabetes 2, COPD. Claims filed with supporting statements from doctor and others as I'm charged as chronic and unable to care for self. What do you feel my chances are for a rating? If you file with supporting statements and statements from doctors, you should have a good chance at a rating. I'm not going to say it's more than 50% because I would have to read the statements myself and see if they met the criteria the VA is looking for and that type of thing. And then if they send you for exams, I would need to see what the examiner said about your conditions and that type of thing. But you have a chance at a rating. You submitted sufficient evidence. I filed a claim on hemorrhoids and broken right toe in 2012. Was service connected but 0% rating. I just filed a claim for increase for both. I went to private doctor, had x-rays that show my toe is worse and affected my ankles, knees, hips, and lower back. Have not had CMP exam yet. If pain is severe and constant, do I have a chance to get an increase? The answer is yes on your toe. But if your toe is causing your ankle, knees, hips, and back to hurt, then you need to claim those things secondary to your toe. Yes, you need to claim those things secondary to your toe and try to get those things service connected too. If you enter the military with flat feet and exit the military with joint pain in my knees, how can I service connect my knees if I wasn't really having feet pain? You probably need to get your feet connected first and then claim your knees secondary to your feet, unless your knees themselves are in your military medical records. I mean, there's a couple different ways you get your knees service connected. It's all about what you're already rated for. The appointments are through the transition process. Type wrong. Okay, yes, those are probably CMP exams that were scheduled through the transition process. If I'm service connected for general anxiety disorder and major depressive disorder, and my psychologist and psychiatrist diagnosed me with PTSD and have been treating me for that, how does that affect my upcoming reval, or does it? I mean, it has an effect on it because you've been getting regular treatment. They could change your diagnosis to PTSD and service connect you for that. But generally, it probably just signals an increase in severity of your conditions, and you will probably get some type of higher rating. Good evening. I'm 50% for flat feet, also 60% back problems. Should I try PT or IU? Wow, 60% just for your back. That's pretty bad. Furthermore, medically retired from USPS because of back flat feet. Wow. It sounds like right off the bat you have an IU claim just because of the two things that you're rated for, but you might be permanent and total if you were to apply for some secondary conditions. Is your back causing your hips to hurt? Has your feet caused your ankles or knees to hurt? Is your neck now having problems because you can't sleep right because of your back? Or that type of thing. There could be things that you could apply for secondary that could carry you to 100% PNT. But right off the bat, it sounds like you have a valid IU claim. So that's up to you what you want to pursue. But probably the fastest route to 100% is the IU claim. You mentioned ED. If you're diagnosed with PTSD, must you have a Nexus letter diagnosis to claim ED secondary to PTSD, or can you claim and go through CMP exam and get approved? You can claim, go through CMP exam and get approved for ED. If one have a BVA appeal and it's for 5 conditions, can one just have a CMP for 1 condition and get a rating just for just that one? Yes. I have been rated both on my knees and back, total of 60%. Both have gotten worse. I haven't been able to sleep on my right side because it goes numb. Having trouble sleeping. Sometimes walking and standing because of the pain. I'm seeing a chiropractor. Can I do another claim? Okay. If you're 60% for your back and knees, there might not be much more you can get for that itself, because I'm assuming that you're probably 40% for your back and either 10% for each knee, or 20% for your knees. And there might not be much more you can get. Well, there might be for your knees if they're 10% of it, then they've gotten worse. But you need to check out the rating schedule and see if there's more you can get there, because the 60% rating for your back requires so many incapacitating episodes a year and requires you to be bedridden and that type of thing. But you can apply for things secondary, just like I told the other veteran. You can claim secondary conditions to your back and your knees. If you're having sleep trouble because of your back, claim sleep disturbances secondary to your back. If you're having trouble walking or standing, you can claim your feet secondary to your back. There's all types of secondary claims you can put in. Good evening. I retired from the Air Force Reserves and my dental records got lost, and I was not able to get a copy to file a dental claim. How can I file a claim for this? Now I've been going to my civilian dentist to fix what should have been fixed while I was on activation orders. Please, I need your advice. I would try a personal statement and maybe a statement from your dentist that said these things obviously occurred some years ago and are likely connected to his service. These things that I fixed or that I've been working on, if you can get your dentist to write such a letter, that will go a long way to helping you getting those things service connected. Dental conditions are tricky as it is. It needs to be a significant dental condition, not just like a pocket or some open pocket or something like that, in order to get service connected. Good evening. I have a CMP exam tomorrow via video conference for ENT. This one of my claims that was remanded by the VBA. I've never had a video CMP before. Any suggestions of what I can expect? Also, once it's completed, do you know if it will go back to the VA or will my claim just go to the raters for a rating? So since COVID has started and they've been doing a lot more telehealth exams, what I've seen is that veterans have had good experiences with telehealth exams because you're in your natural environment and you're able to be comfortable. That's what I've heard. That's what I've seen. You're not walking into some foreign place, seeing some doctor you've never met and having to yield to their environment and things like that. Just environmentally, it's a better situation for the veteran. So you can expect to be comfortable, number one. Number two is that you just need to be able to explain your condition. How often is it? What does it cause when it happens? Do you get headaches? Do you, how stuffed up are you congestion wise? Look over the DBQ for that condition that you filed for and read the questions, because those are the same questions the doctor will have to answer about your condition. I put in a claim in November. I turned in all Navy and Army records. VBA keeps requesting my records from other sources than me and says no one replied. It keeps requesting every few months. Will this keep denying my claim? Unfortunately, yes. Somebody just doesn't have the sense enough to realize that you've already submitted the records, and that's probably all they're going to get. I should add, I had a case where one veteran, he had his whole jacket from the military himself, and so no other service department or anybody had the records. Only he had the records, and we submitted them, and they still kept requesting them. So they're going to request them until they've exhausted the process, and then hopefully somebody will realize that they already have the records. Hi, Carmella. Hi. I was denied a claim for PTSD and SSD in January. I only appealed the SSD for HLR. I'm filing new and relevant evidence for supplemental claim. Can I file the PTSD along with the SSD again for supplemental? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. I've been diagnosed with PTSD and have sleep apnea not service-related with migraines. Can they be connected to PTSD? I've seen it on many occasions. When filing for your claim for mental health condition, the section that states about occupational impairment or issues with work, is it okay to submit a performance evaluation or notes from your employer as to where your performance has decreased? The way I see it, too much evidence may not be a bad thing. What do you think? I think that's excellent evidence. Very, very good evidence, a performance evaluation. I have a question about sleep apnea. It was questioned while I was in the military, and they were supposed to do a referral for a sleep exam, and they never did, and I was diagnosed outside of the military more than one time in my military record as possible. Do I need a Nexus letter, or do you think I can get it approved with that information? I think you can get it approved with that information. If you were seen more than one time for sleep issues in your military record, you could probably get it connected without a Nexus letter. A private Nexus letter, that is. They're still going to request a medical opinion from a C&P examiner. I retired in 2016 from Air Force Reserves, and I never filed my dental exam and claims. My dental records are lost. You might want to get a statement, like I said before, from your current dentist saying that these are long-standing issues. Probably, in my estimation, these things started 10 years ago, from what I can tell now, and that type of thing, and try to get that type of letter and sent to the VA. Good evening. I'm still active duty, getting ready to retire in 2 years. Only medical appointments available since COVID-19 is over the phone. Will I not be able to use diagnosis from those telephonic appointments for my VA claim? Yes, you will be able to use those appointments for your VA claim because those are military medical records. It's not private telehealth records. There's a difference. Military medical records, the VA will definitely consider in your claim. I just received a letter from the VA where they are stating that they are reducing my 30% for PCOS to 0%. I need assistance on how to go about fighting the reduction. So, in my opinion, I don't know all the specifics of your case or your claim, but it would be probably be my opinion that the first thing you need to do is request a personal hearing ASAP, within 30 days of the date of the letter they sent you, the proposal to reduce. Within 30 days of the date of the letter they sent proposing to reduce your rating, you need to request a hearing in writing. Requesting that hearing will stop the reduction, halt the reduction until you get that hearing. In the meantime, you can gather new evidence to prove that you should be 30% for PCOS, or you can apply for an increase in your PCOS and get another exam. That's another strategic way to go about it when they propose a reduction. But the thing with reductions is you need to act quickly, because you only have 30 days really to give a good fight before you have to go through the appeal system. So request that hearing within 30 days, a personal hearing in writing to the VA, and then gather new evidence or either ask for an increase again. Got a CMP exam for sleep apnea via telehealth and in person for CMP for sleep apnea via telehealth and in person for SSD. Any advice would help. The sleep apnea exam is going to be really short. They're going to ask you a few questions. They mainly go on the record for that. If you had a sleep study, if you had problems in the military, if you have a current condition, if you use a CPAP or that type of thing. And then for the SSD, you just need to be prepared for a regular mental health exam. They're going to go through your childhood, pre-military, military life, post-military life, any legal issues, relationship situation, family situation. Did you have both a mom and dad? Were your mom and dad divorced? Did you suffer any abuse as a child? Tell me about your military time. Tell me about your mood. Tell me about things that trigger you, your pain. You want to talk for your SSD. You want to make sure that you voice how bad pain is for you and how much it affects your mental state and your condition, how it affects your working life, how it affects your family life, and that type of thing. Just how it affects all facets of life, and what it causes. I could tell you what it causes for you, but just what it causes for you. But I would have put some thought into those things before the exam, so you're able to give adequate answers during the exam. How do I get VA to send my audit to DFAS? Sometimes calling DFAS can expedite the audit process and get it moving. But generally, you just have to wait the VA out for that audit situation. Sometimes I have seen it take 6 months or more when it should be much less than that. If you have headaches in your records already for several months that are being caused by a service-connected condition and have already filed your intent to file, should you wait to file for your headaches or wait until you're done meeting with your neurologist? If you expect to get a Nexus letter from your neurologist, then you might want to wait. But if you already have it in your record multiple times, I don't see a reason to wait in filing and claiming it. If I have combined service connected for 50% deemed as static, will filing anything secondary to it like SSD open to 50% for reevaluation? The answer is that it shouldn't, but it can. It's not very likely that it will reopen the other conditions unless you put in for increase specifically for them. But there's always the possibility that they could. If it's static, they shouldn't touch it. But there's some percentage out there, I think it's very low, that they could open other things and re-examine them. I don't think that they will. It usually doesn't happen unless you specifically file a claim for those things. If you just claim things secondary, they usually just examine the things you claim secondary. I filed a claim for low back pain and was denied even though it was in my medical records. Examiner stated I have a diagnosis, but records are silent for a condition and less likely than not service connected. What should I do? I would appeal and write a statement that the examiner was misguided, that it is in my medical records. Is it in your military medical records? If it is, then you have a strong appeal. You might want to ask for a higher level review and ask for a higher level reviewer to review it and say, my records are not silent for this condition. This condition is in my records and the examiner was misguided. I have been filing for compensation for chronic eczema since 2008, denied multiple times and finally given a 0% rating for it in 2016. I have been given many medications, ointments, and strong steroids for eczema. They help temporarily, but it's still persistent. The condition definitely affects my daily life and job. How can I get an increase for this condition? Thank you. If you're on systematic therapy, which means medication that you take orally, then you should have a higher rating than 0% for eczema, chronic eczema. It just depends on the percentage of the body it affects and then what kind of medication you're on. So it sounds like to me you should have a 0% higher than a 0% rating for eczema based on the medications you're on. You need to make sure that when you put in for an increase, the examiner understands exactly what medication you're on. And make sure that medication is current. So you're still seeing the dermatologist for it, you're still getting treated for it, and that type of thing. Take the pill bottle to the exam with you. I claimed bladder infection, UTI, and vaginal rashes, but when I never had a CEP exam for it. It's in my records back from boot camp. They just rated me 0%. Do I need to file again since they're getting worse? I would check out the rating schedule and see if there's anything higher you can get for those conditions. And if you meet the severity level that's required for a higher rating, then put in for an increase. If not, then you probably don't want to touch it. But check out the schedule for rating disabilities and see what the next higher level is and if you meet that higher level. Have you seen where Bell's palsy is service connected? Yes. I'm 100% scheduler rated already, but I have an appeal still pending that dates back to 2007. If granted, will I get any retro pay for any percentage rated for that condition? It depends. Have you been rated 100% since 2007? If you have, there's no back pay to be had. If you haven't, there is likely back pay to be had. For instance, if in 2007 you were only rated 90% and in 2018 you got 100%, then there's many years of back pay to be had. Lots of questions tonight. I provided docs showing visits to ER to be tested for date rape drug the day after the incident. I did not have a rape kit done, simply tested. Can I get it service connected? Yes, you can. That should be enough to to approve MST, in my opinion. Let me see, where was I at? Can I get service connected? Yes, you should be able to. Sorry that you went through that. Does permanent and total mean you won't get reevaluated? Generally, it does, unless you put in another claim for something, and then they might reevaluate it. But if you get PNT and you leave it alone, you should not be reevaluated because you aren't scheduled for any future exam. BVA put my hypertension secondary to depression in remand, and the CMP was done just reviewing my medical records. Any advice? I would definitely get those CMP notes and make sure that they covered everything. That's called an ACE exam, and there's not much you can do about it besides providing private evidence to counteract that CMP exam. But first, you want to know if the CMP exam was in your favor or not before you go paying for private evidence. So get a good representative who can get you those records real quick. How does a PNT service-connected vet age 57 apply for aid in attendance? And does that open you up for review? Thank you in advance. You simply just apply, you fill out the application for aid in attendance. There's a specific form for aid in attendance that you can turn in, have your doctor do and turn in. That should be enough to evaluate your condition. They shouldn't review all your conditions, just your level of need for aid in attendance. Do you get back pay after deferments have been completed and you have gotten an increase? Because I'm at 80 with 13 deferments pending doctor's response or examination. If you get increased, you will likely get back pay. I have a claim in right now, and it's in the gathering evidence phase. My mental health records didn't make it into the claim. Should I upload the records now or wait and do a supplemental? Upload the records now. How do I connect SIFT on my left ovary to fibroids, which led to a hysterectomy? If the cyst on your ovary is resolved, like it's been removed by hysterectomy, then you can't service connect that. You just need to claim the hysterectomy secondary to fibroids, it sounds like, if I'm understanding your question right. If you're being prescribed IBS drugs from a VA doctor, even though you haven't been diagnosed but have all the symptoms, will that suffice as a diagnosis if you're documented in your Blue Button report? The symptoms should be enough to get you a CMP exam. Good evening. If I had just had a CMP for tinnitus and partial hearing loss, and the doctor sent me papers to see my primary doctor for ear problems, do you think I'll get a rating for tinnitus and hearing loss? It sounds like it. If the CMP examiner sent you papers to see a primary care doctor, it indicates that there was a significant issue. Why do they classify insomnia as mental health? I'm not sure, but they do. So you just have to play by the game the VA plays. That's what they've considered, the body system they consider it to affect. I went in front of a VBA judge and he granted for RO to reopen my claims because I had new material evidence. So since he granted to reopen, does that mean increase of the claims I submitted? It means that they are going to evaluate the conditions you submitted the claims for because of the new evidence. It does not guarantee an increase, but you probably have a good chance at it. I'm 100% PNT for PTSD. I'm also 50% standalone for sleep apnea. Can I do secondary diabetes to sleep apnea without opening PTSD? Yes, you can. There's a very low, if you don't actually reopen the PTSD, it's a very low percentage that they're going to reopen the PTSD for you if the PTSD isn't scheduled for future examinations. So, there's, in my opinion, there's little chance that they will reopen the PTSD, but there is a chance. But so you should know that there's some risk, but I don't think it's very big at all. Please help. I did not mention my work discipline at my PTSD CMP exam. Was that a mistake? I wouldn't call it a mistake. I mean, just an omission that would have been helpful to your cause, because what mental health condition is what matters is social and occupational impairment when it comes to rating. So if you have occupational impairment, you should share those things. I was diagnosed with sleep apnea by the VA and have a CPAP. It was questioned 3 additional times. Will it serve? And I just saw in my military records that there should have been a referral to sleep study and service, been denied. How do I get it connected? You're probably going to need a private Nexus letter, it sounds like, if they keep denying it. Good evening. If I had a permanent shade profile while in service, they put in file, if I don't have a copy, can I still claim it? Yes. But just because you don't have a copy, the VA can likely get a copy of your permanent profile. My military medical records show I have a chronic migraines. I was told it wasn't service connected. I found out later it was because I said I get headaches prior to coming in service. A regular headache isn't anything like a migraine. What are your thoughts? Is it possible to connect it secondary to my sinusitis then? My thought is that it should have been rated based on aggravation, that a pre-existing condition was aggravated by the service. And so something wasn't done right. If you have time to appeal that decision, I would appeal. But if not, you can try claiming it secondary to sinusitis. Definitely. That causes headaches too. I've seen, I'm not a medical professional. Good evening. I was diagnosed with sleep apnea, but it was never in my military records. I suffer sleep apnea along with headaches when starting to gain weight in military. Can I get this service connected and what information I need to submit? You're going to need some private medical evidence in order to get that service connected if it's not in your military records. Is 100% PNT reversible? It is if you reopen some of the claims on it. If you get 100% PNT and you don't touch it, it should not be bothered unless the VA finds some reason for fraud or something like that. But generally, it doesn't get reversed. But if you reopen one of your claims or something like that, it might get reevaluated. So the answer is, can it be reduced? The answer is yes. I have a question about Tourette's convulsive tics. I had a head injury while I fell off a ladder and landed on my head while in service. I started having these convulsive tics a few years later. Could this possibly be service connected? I have 90% now. I would say so. I'm not a medical professional, but it sounds like it might be connected. I would try getting some private medical evidence, maybe going to a private doctor and seeing what they have to say about the connection, telling them about your head injury in service and the tics now, and that you think it's connected, and get the doctor's opinion on that, and submit those medical records with the claim. Hello, you forgot my question. I'm sorry. There's a lot of questions. I'm trying to get through them all. I'm run out of time though, but if I forgot your questions, I apologize. I might have just scrolled down too fast. What's SSD that you're talking about right now? Somatic symptom disorder, basically chronic pain syndrome. Good evening. I just moved to another state. Do I need to update my address at the local VA or VA website? I would do it at the VA website, and with your local VA. You can do it both places, especially your local VA clinic. Follow-up question from earlier. I had a hemorrhoid surgery in the Navy service connected 0%. Had second surgery in 1996 for the same thing and was given 0% in 2013. But I have been dealing with this. I flare up every few months and I have self-medicated to relieve pain, which is affecting my everyday life. Can I get an increase if I'm diagnosed with depression service connected? Can I file secondary for sleep apnea, which I was diagnosed 2 years ago and have CPAP machine and was diagnosed with service sleep apnea? Let me see if I can see the rest of your question. Diagnosed with severe sleep apnea. Can I file secondary to depression and get ready for sleep apnea? I was honorably discharged in 1992. On your first question, it is terribly difficult to get a rating higher than 0% for hemorrhoids. I've seen it time and time again where most times people are rated 0% for hemorrhoids. If you put in for an increase and they denied, I would appeal for a higher rating. You might have to take it to the board or that type of thing, but you need to look at the schedule for rating disabilities and see what the next level of severity is for hemorrhoids and see if you meet that level of severity. And yes, you can file for sleep apnea secondary to depression. Hello, good evening, Carmella. How long does it take to get a CMP exam through QTNC? I'm seeing various time frames. Because of COVID, I would give it at least a month at this point to get an exam after you've put in a claim. Have you seen Graves' disease and thyroid eye disease service connected? No family history of either? Yes, I've seen them service connected. I started taking thyroid medication while in service and it's been in my records, but it's been denied. What is my process? Private medical evidence, a Nexus letter or something like that. How do I get a Nexus letter stating my CPAP machine is secondary to my PTSD? You simply request one from a doctor who does Nexus letters. Can I file for a service-connected disability and a secondary condition to that disability at the same time, or should I get a service-connected first? You can do it at the same time. I have 80% overall, 70% PTSD to MST, 10% migraines, and 40% and IC. Recently had a bad TMP exam, tried to file secondaries, and was denied secondary to my PTSD. Those claims were FSAD, GERD, irregular periods, and I have been diagnosed with all of them, but VA is denying based on the opinion of a bad CMP doctor, and she just basically refused to connect the dots. So what are my choices now? Just got the decision in the mail today. Really don't understand why they keep denying FSAD. Private Nexus letters. Private medical evidence is the way to go. If you had a bad CMP examiner, you could try appealing, but you're probably going to need medical evidence to overcome that. I had vocal surgery after being in Kuwait, but was not given a 0% when I filed a claim. I did receive a percentage for sleep apnea. Can I receive a percentage for the vocal surgery? If the vocal surgery caused a resulting disability, then yes, you can be rated for that disability. Not the surgery itself, but the disability it caused. I just recently received my rating for PTSD with major depressive disorder, and I have another exam coming for anxiety. Is this not the same? Also, it should be the same. I mean, basically, they're just reevaluating your PTSD if you have another exam coming for anxiety. Also, I developed PIH in the military, and I now have hypertension and medication from the VA since 2010. I'm 80% for combined back chronic pain. I've been putting in a claim for sleep apnea by itself and did secondary and been denied 3 times, but everyone around me been getting a rating 50% for the first time. What can I do? I've been on CPAP and a sleep study since 2001. Appeal. It sounds like you need to appeal. If you've been denied 3 times and you claimed it secondary too, then you may want to appeal. But the reason that they denied it matters. Why is the reason they're giving you for denial? You have to overcome that reason. You might need private medical Nexus letter or something like that to overcome what the VA is saying. I was service connected for IBS in August of 2019. That effective date was 6/2016. They only retro paid me since 2019. Wonder why the retro was not back to the effective date. The audit agreed with the VA. Any advice? It might have been separation pay, but if you had an audit and it agreed with the VA, there's something there going on that I'm not aware of. Is the reason they did not pay you the full amount. Might have been separation pay or something like that, but our money owed for something else, but there's a reason that they did not pay you the full amount. Sorry, my hypertension and tinnitus was denied, but it is shown due to my MOS that I'm likely to have developed tinnitus. Appeal. Appeal, appeal, appeal. I'm 100% due to a neurological brain disorder. I was just medically retired and was on TDRL and just made aware I was on PDRL last month. Will I be switched to PNT or will I stay the same? Thank you so much. You won't, if you're not PNT already, you might be PNT already. You might usually want to check. But if you're not PNT already, you won't automatically be switched. I mean, you'll have to ask the VA to make it PNT. But you might be a PNT already. You need to check on that and be sure before you ask the VA anything that you're not already PNT. I have done 2 semesters of voc rehab since January. Ended up having to do 2 weeks of inpatient hospital care during this last semester. I had to take an incomplete in one of those classes, and I don't feel like I can do schooling anymore due to increase in my symptoms. What information can I submit for IU given I really haven't worked in recent years successfully, and now school is extremely difficult? Thanks for all you do. I would write a statement saying just this. I would submit your inpatient medical records, although the VA probably already has them if it was with the VA, and submit for IU, and have your previous employer fill out the form and send it to the VA. I have night blindness and diagnosed in military, denied twice. Appeal, appeal, appeal. Alrighty, guys, that looks like all the questions for tonight. I'm glad I was able to make it through them all. Hopefully this was helpful. That's my only goal, to be helpful. I'm not trying to recruit new clients or get new clients. Like I said, you don't have to inbox me unless your question is of a sensitive nature. Please pose your question to the whole group. I'm just simply trying to help you guys get what you deserve. Thank you so much for your service, and y'all have a good night.